Hey everyone, get comfortable. Tonight, we're leaving behind the grand palaces of Istanbul and the roar of the bazaars. Our journey takes us to the quiet heart of the Ottoman countryside, where the day begins with the call of roosters and the scent of earth fills the air. Here, life moves with the rhythm of the seasons, humble but deeply human. Let's spend the day in the fields, beside a farmer whose world is built on patience and prayer. Before we dive in, take a breath, get comfortable, and if you enjoy stories that bring the past to life, consider subscribing. I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight. Share it in the comments. Now, let the world outside fade for a while, and let's begin our quiet journey through history. The first light of dawn creeps over the hills of Anatolia, slow and golden, like honey spilling across the land. The world is quiet, that gentle kind of quiet, right before everything wakes up. The mist sits low on the barley fields, soft as breath, and the chill in the air makes every sound feel sharper. Somewhere out there, a rooster decides it's time to remind everyone he's still the boss of mornings. In a small mud brick house on the edge of the village, Yusuf ibn Kemal opens his eyes. He blinks once, twice. Then he sighs, that long, peaceful sigh of a man who knows exactly what kind of day he's about to have. The same kind as yesterday, and the day before that, and probably the day after tomorrow. But he doesn't mind. He sits up, wraps a thin wool blanket over his shoulders, and listens. The wind moves softly through the fig trees outside. A donkey brays somewhere near the barn, complaining to no one in particular. From the village center, a few early footsteps can already be heard. The baker starting his fire, the shepherd calling to his dog. Then comes a sound that truly starts the day, the call to prayer. It rises from the small, white minaret in the heart of the village. A beautiful, steady voice cutting through the mist, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. The words float through the air like light itself, wrapping over fields, roofs, and resting animals. Yusuf smiles. He stands, stretches his arms, bones cracking in quiet protest, and makes his way outside. The ground is cool beneath his bare feet. He splashes water from the earthen jug near the door, washing his face and hands. The water is cold enough to wake a dead man, but it feels good, clean, real. As he wipes his face with the corner of his linen shirt, he looks toward the horizon. The sun is finally peeking up, a perfect golden line cutting through the pale blue sky. The barley shimmers like a sea of coins. For a moment, everything looks eternal. He whispers, half to himself, half to God, Alhamdulillah, another day to work, another day to live. Then he chuckles softly, though I wouldn't mind a day off now and then. Inside, his wife, Zainab, is already awake. He can hear her clattering wooden bowls, muttering something about men who wake up late and expect breakfast like sultans. He grins, knowing better than to reply. From the corner of the room, his old cat, a one-eyed survivor named Toprak, stretches lazily and gives him a look that clearly says, "You go ahead. I'll hold the house together." Yusuf chuckles again and ties a thin cloth around his head. All right, I'm going." He steps out into the yard, and the morning greets him properly this time. Dew sparkles on every blade of grass. The air smells of wet earth and with smoke. The world feels alive in the simplest way. Down the path, other villagers begin to stir. Mehmet the potter is already carrying clay pots to his shed. Little Hassan is chasing a chicken for no reason at all, and losing badly. The smell of baking bread drifts through the air, warm and comforting, like a promise. Yusuf walks toward a small plot of land at the edge of the fields. His ox, Caraman, waits patiently, already hitched to the wooden plow. Yusuf pats the animal's thick neck. "Good morning, my friend. Did you sleep better than me?" The ox snorts, unimpressed. "Yeah, I thought so," Yusuf mutters. Must be nice not worrying about taxes or harvest weights. As the first real rays of sunlight fall over the field, Yusuf takes a deep breath. The smell of the soil, the sound of the morning wind, the soft clank of his tools, this is his world. Not grand, not rich, but steady. He looks across the plain, wide, golden, endless. The horizon blurs into the sky. Somewhere far beyond those hills lies Istanbul, the great city, the heart of the empire. He's heard stories of its marble mosques and crowded bazaars, but it feels like another planet. Here, his world is smaller, but also clearer. He knows every patch of soil, every stone, every bird's call. The earth gives what it can, and he takes only what he needs. He starts his morning slowly, as always. First, checking the water channel that feeds his barley. The small stream runs steady today. Good sign. The rains last week helped. He bends down, runs his fingers through the cool water, and smiles. Mashallah, you're doing well today. Then he moves to the barley stalks, brushing them gently between his hands. The plants sway slightly, whispering secrets to the wind. He thinks about his father, who taught him how to read the fields like a book, how to tell the soil is too tired, if the wind will bring rain, or if the locusts are coming. His father used to say, "The land speaks, Yusuf. You just have to be quiet enough to listen." And so he listens. For a moment, everything stops. No sound but the faint buzzing of bees and the distant murmur of prayers still echoing through the hills. Time feels soft, slow, forgiving. He smiles again. Still alive, still farming, still listening. From behind him, Zainab's voice cuts through the calm. "Yusuf, don't forget your bread. You'll faint in the field again like last week." He turns, holding up his hands. "That was one time, and it was because you forgot the salt." She doesn't reply, just waves a loaf of bread in the air like a weapon. Yusuf laughs and jogs back to the house, snatching the bread from her hand and kissing her cheek in one smooth move. "You see, I'm learning." She shakes her head. "You're learning too slowly." He tears off a piece of the bread, still warm, and takes a bite. "Then I'll need another lesson tomorrow." The sun climbs higher now, washing the world in gold. The mist begins to fade, and the day stretches open like a new page. Yusuf walks back to the fields, chewing his bread, humming a tune he half remembers from childhood. Somewhere in the distance, a flute plays, a shepherd's song, gentle and sweet. The sound mixes with the rustling of barley and the calls of early birds. Yusuf looks out over the land, his land, his sky, his morning, and smiles softly. "This," he says, "is enough." He raises his head toward the sun, squinting as the light spills across his face. For all its simplicity, for all its repetition, there's something deeply holy about this life. The rhythm of work, the whisper of dawn, the peace between heartbeats. He takes one more bite of bread, pats Caraman on the side, and says, "All right, old friend, let's make the empire proud, one furrow at a time." The ox grunts, the plow creaks, and together they move forward, cutting the first lines of the day into the waiting earth. And above them, the sun rises fully, bright and alive, over the fields of Anatolia. The sun has barely lifted its full face above the hills when the rest of the house begins to stir. The soft crackle of the hearth mixes with the faint bleating of goats outside. Smoke curls lazily from the chimney, and the smell of baking bread starts to fill the little home, warm, rich, comforting. Inside, Eileen, Yusuf's wife, is already moving with quiet rhythm. She ties a scarf around her hair, rolls up her sleeves, and tends to the small clay oven built into the wall. Her hands are quick practice. She dusts the wooden board with flour and kneads the dough again, pressing gently, folding and patting into shape. She hums while she works. A soft tune, maybe something her mother used to sing to her long ago. It floats through the room like sunlight, wrapping itself around everything. The dough rises slowly, the fire crackles, and in that moment the world feels steady and kind. In the corner of the room, two small shapes move under woven blankets. One child peeks out, Yusuf's son, Hassan, his hair sticking up in every possible direction. He blinks at the light and groans dramatically. "Mama, why does the sun wake up so early?" Eileen laughs. "So it can see your messy hair, my boy. Now come, wash your face." From under another blanket, a smaller voice joins in, his little sister, Fatma. But I'm not ready to be awake yet, she mumbles, clutching her rag doll. Well, Eileen says, turning with a grin, the goats are already awake. The rooster is bragging, and your father's probably out there talking his ox again. If you sleep any longer, even the chickens will finish breakfast before you. That does the trick. Both children tumble out of bed, their bare feet pattering against the cool clay floor. Hassan splashes water from the clay jug to wash his face, sending drops everywhere. Fatma tries to copy him, but mostly ends up winning the cat instead. The cat, Toprak, gives her an unimpressed look, flicks his tail, and retreats to a safer corner. The house itself is small, but full of life. Mud brick walls, smooth and sun-baked. Wooden beams overhead, strong but old. The floor is covered with hand-woven carpets in shades of red and brown, a little faded, but beautiful still. Near the door, a large clay jar cools the drinking water. Sunlight streams into the small window slits, catching dust motes that drift like tiny golden specks. Eileen moves around the hearth with quiet grace. She takes out the first round of flatbread, perfectly golden, and sets it aside to cool. Then she fills a small brass kettle with water and sets it on the fire. The smell of tea leaves soon fills the air, sweet, earthy, and sharp. When Yusuf finally steps back into the house, brushing dust off his sleeves, he's greeted by that familiar aroma. He closes his eyes for a second, breathing it in deeply. Ah, he says, smiling, that's the smell that keeps me alive. Eileen raises an eyebrow. Not my cooking, I hope? He grins. No, I mean you and the cooking, a perfect combination. She shakes her head, half amused, half pretending not to be. Go sit. You're lucky I haven't replaced you with the ox. He listens more. The children giggle. Hassan climbs into his father's lap, proudly showing off his freshly washed face. Look, Baba, I used extra water today. Yusuf looks at him seriously. Ah, good. The Empire will surely reward you for such bravery. Fatma hands her father a piece of flatbread, giggling as he pretends to take an enormous bite that leaves nothing behind. Gone. All gone, he declares, and she squeals with laughter. Breakfast is simple, but perfect in its simplicity. A wooden tray sits in the center of the low table. A few olives glistening with oil, crumbly goat cheese, slices of cucumber, and a warm round of flatbread fresh from the oven. The tea is poured into small clay cups, its steam twisting softly in the morning light. The family gathers close, knees touching, voices low but happy. Yusuf breaks a piece of bread and dips it in the olive oil. You know, he says thoughtfully, I heard that in Istanbul the Sultan eats 10 kinds of cheese every morning. Hassan's eyes widen. 10. Maybe 11, Yusuf adds. Depends how hungry he is. Fatma frowns. That's too much cheese, Baba. Yusuf nods solemnly. You're right. A true farmer like me needs only one, and that's your mother's cheese. Eileen laughs softly, shaking her head. Flattery doesn't make the cows give more milk, Yusuf. Maybe not, he says, taking a sip of tea, but it makes my morning better. The tea is strong, slightly bitter, but smooth. The kind of drink that wakes you slowly rather than suddenly. The kind that feels like warmth spreading from the chest outward. Outside, the village hums to life. Hooves clop on the dirt road. A cart creaks. A child calls out for a lost goat. The smell of wood smoke drifts in through the window. Inside the little home, time seems to stretch. No one rushes. No one checks a clock. The day will begin soon enough. The fields, the animals, the chores. But for now, this small circle of family is everything. After breakfast, Eileen wraps the remaining bread in a clean cloth and places it near the door. Take this as your midday meal, she says to Yusuf. He nods. If I come back hungry, it means I worked hard. If you come back early, she replies, smiling softly, it means you missed us. The children giggle again. Hassan tugs at his father's sleeve. Can we come help in the field today? Yusuf says, pretending to think hard. Only if you promise not to nap under the fig tree again. Fatma crosses her arms. That was your nap spot, Baba. He laughs. Ah, you caught me. The laughter fills the room, light, warm, and real. Before he steps out, Yusuf pauses at the doorway. He looks back at them. Eileen cleaning the cups. Hassan trying to braid his sister's hair while she swats him away. The sight makes his chest feel full in the best way. He smiles and says quietly, "May every morning be like this." Eileen looks up. "Inshallah," she replies, her voice soft but certain. Outside, the sun is high enough to set the barley glowing. The fields wait, patient and endless. Yusuf shoulders his wooden hoe and starts down the dusty path, still hearing the echo of his family's laughter behind him, the sound that makes even the hardest day feel light. And as the village comes alive with the rhythm of another day, one thing feels certain. For all the empire's grandeur, this, the simple warmth of bread, laughter, and love, is where its true heart beats. The sun has just begun to spill a golden light over the sleepy village. The fields beyond are wrapped in a soft morning haze, barley swaying gently, like the land itself is breathing. Yusuf steps out of his small home, fastening his cloak against the early chill. In his hand, a string of prayer beads clicks softly, one after another, a rhythm older than memory. The air smells of damp earth and baking bread from the neighbors' hearths. Somewhere, a donkey brays like it's already late for work, and a few chickens scatter near the doorway, scratching the dust. Yusuf smiles. Even they rise for their rizq, he murmurs, meaning their share of the day's blessings. Down the dirt path, the village mosque waits, small, humble, its single minaret rising like a finger pointing toward the sky. The muezzin's voice echoes through the still air. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. The call drifts across the fields, over rooftops, and into every waking heart. It's not just a call to prayer. It's a reminder that the day has begun, and so has gratitude. Yusuf walks with a few of his neighbors, old friends who've made the same walk 1,000 times. Their sandals press soft patterns into the dusty road. Morning, Yusuf calls Hassan the potter, yawning wide. Morning, Hassan, Yusuf replies, grinning. Still half asleep, I see. Half? Maybe more. My wife says I only wake up after the second cup of tea. They laugh. Quiet, familiar laughter that blends with the rustle of trees and distant cluck of hens. The mosque door creaks as they step inside. The cool air within smells faintly of olive oil and dusted mats. Each man takes his place on the carpet. No ranks, no titles, no difference between landowner and shepherd. Just men standing shoulder to shoulder, facing the same direction, whispering the same words. When they bow, the wooden beams creak softly overhead. The sound feels almost alive, like the old building is bowing along with them. Yusuf's forehead touches the woven mat, and for a brief moment, the world goes still. No worry about crops, no thought of taxes, no hunger or fear. Just peace, deep, warm, and wordless. When the prayer ends, they sit quietly. The imam recites a few verses, his voice calm, steady. Then, as always, a few of the elders shuffle outside, settling under the fig tree by the gate. Yusuf joins them, the air now carrying the smell of dew and sunlight. "Salaam alaikum," says Mehmet, the old shepherd, his beard white as snow. "Alaikum salam," Yusuf replies, smiling. "How are your barley field this year?" "Growing, alhamdulillah, though they could use more rain." "Always could," chuckles Mehmet. "But patience grows faster than crops." The men laugh softly, the kind of laugh that comes from wisdom and age, from years of watching seasons come and go, empires rise and fall, and still, life finding its rhythm. A young boy runs past, barefoot and full of energy, his sling bouncing on his shoulder. "Go slow," someone calls. The boy grins, doesn't listen, and disappears around the corner. Yusuf sits back, feeling the warmth of the sun begin to touch his face. The sound of birds fills the air, sparrows, crows, maybe a lonely stork. Somewhere far off, a dog barks lazily. It's a simple morning, but it feels complete. He fingers his prayer beads again, lost in thought. Gratitude, he thinks, isn't just words. It's waking up, breathing, and knowing you still have work to do. Still have people to feed, hearts to love, prayers to say. Beside him, Hassan sighs. You know, Yusuf, when I was younger, I thought happiness would come when I had more land, more coin, more comfort. And now, Yusuf asks, half smiling, now I think happiness comes when I stop counting. Yusuf chuckles. Then you finally learn to be rich, my friend. The imam walks by, nodding gently. Men of the field, he says warmly, remember, every drop of sweat you give today will be written as a prayer. Yusuf nods, heart quietly stirred. Then may our prayers be honest ones, he replies. The men rise, heading back to their homes. The village is fully awake now, women kneading dough, children chasing each other with sticks, the smell of tea drifting from every doorway. Yusuf walks slowly, his sandals brushing the dust. His mind drifts to his father, who used to tell him, a man's faith isn't shown in the mosque, Yusuf. It's shown in how he treats his land, his animals, his family, even how he greets the morning. He glances at the sky, already pale blue, with clouds like thin strokes of paint. You were right, Father, he thinks. Faith isn't just prayer. It's gratitude in motion. By the time he reaches his door, his children are outside, feeding crumbs to the chickens. Eileen waved from the hearth, her face lit by the fire's glow. You're back just in time, she calls. The bread's ready. He grins, wiping his hands. Then the prayer was accepted, he says. Inside, the scent of warm bread fills the air. They eat quietly, each bite a little blessing. Yusuf breaks his bread, dips it in olive oil, and says softly, Praise be the one who gives us this. Outside, the sun climbs higher, spilling light across the fields. Another day has begun, one filled with work, laughter, and a quiet grace that comes from knowing that even the simplest life can be sacred. And as Yusuf finishes his meal, he looks once more toward the minaret in the distance. The echo of the morning adhan still lingers in his heart, a reminder that every sunrise is a chance to begin again, with faith steady as the soil beneath his feet. The sun has fully climbed now, painting the village roofs in gold and the fields in soft amber light. The air smells of earth, straw, and fresh bread, the scent of a world just waking up. Yusuf steps out into the yard, sleeves rolled up, eyes squinting at the brightness. Another day of work awaits. The oxen are already stirring in the stable, great gentle beasts with eyes like slow rivers. They shift their weight, snorting softly as Yusuf approaches. Morning, my friends, he says, patting one of them on the neck. Did you sleep well, or were you planning tomorrow's work again? The ox flicks its ear in reply, which, in Yusuf's mind, clearly means both. He chuckles and grabs a handful of straw, brushing along the animal's side. The stable is quiet except for the creak of wood and the steady sound of breathing. Dust motes drift in the sunlight, slanting through the cracks, dancing lazily in the warm air. He moves from one animal to another, checking hooves, tightening harness straps, murmuring to each as if they understand every word. And maybe they do. Years together have built something like a language between them, a kind of wordless trust. When Yusuf lifts a hand, they know to wait. When he whistles low, they know to move. In one corner of the stable, his tools rest in a neat line. A sickle with its blade curved like a moon, a plow darkened by years of soil, and a small wooden box of oil and rags. Yusuf sits on a stool, the sound of the village behind him, roosters calling, children laughing, a woman singing near the well. He dips a cloth into the oil and begins to rub it along the metal blade. There's something satisfying about the soft scrape of cloth against steel, a daily ritual as steady as prayer. The smell of oil mixes with the earthy scent of hay. A dull blade, his father once told him, is like a lazy man, more work, less reward. Yusuf smiles at the memory. And you, old friend, he says to the sickle. You're far from lazy. When the tools are ready, he stacks them carefully on the wooden cart. The oxen snort. Sensing it's almost time to go, Eileen steps out of the doorway, a cloth over her shoulder. Don't forget the water skin, she says, handing him a small leather flask. I never do, he answers, taking it with a grin. You know me. I forget everything else first. She laughs. Yes, like your hat last week. You came home red as a roasted pepper. He scratches his neck sheepishly. It was an experiment in color. You look more like a tomato than an artist. They both laugh. Easy, warm laughter that fills the air like sunlight through a window. The oxen are ready now, their wooden yoke resting across their shoulders. Yusuf fastens the leather straps, checking them twice. The cart creaks as he gives it a little push. Everything about this moment feels familiar, practiced, not dull, but steady, like each motion has been handed down through generations. He glances toward the horizon, where the fields stretch endlessly, rippling under the light breeze. Come on, my friends, he murmurs to the oxen. Let's go see what the earth has for us today. The road to the fields is a narrow, dusty path winding between low hills. Poppies sway by the roadside, bright red against the green. Olive trees stand like old sentinels, their silver leaves whispering in the wind. Wild thyme grows in small clumps near the rocks. When Yusuf's cart passes over them, the air fills with sharp, clean scent that makes him breathe deep. Every few steps, the wheels creak, the oxen grunt, and the bells on their harnesses chime softly. It's not music, but it feels like a song, a slow, earthy rhythm of life. Birds dart overhead. A cicada begins its endless chant. Somewhere far off, another farmer calls to his animals, his voice echoing faintly across the valley. Yusuf looks around at it all, the trees, the hills, the shimmering fields, and feels that quiet sense of belonging that never quite leaves him. This land has known his footsteps since boyhood. He learned its moods, its seasons, its patience. It's more than just soil. It's memory. He remembers how, as a child, he followed his father down the same path. Too small to help but eager to learn. He'd carry a stick and pretend it was a plow, while his father laughed and said, "One day, you'll make the earth sing." And now, years later, the same fields still hum beneath his hands. At a bend in the path, he stops the cart and takes a sip from the water skin. The wind carries the distant sound of the muezzin's second call of the day, soft, echoing through the hills. It reminds him again that everything, the sweat, the soil, the work, is part of something sacred. For Yusuf, the narrator says gently, the land is both work and prayer. He knows that every furrow turned, every seed buried in the dark, is a kind of devotion, a conversation between him and the Creator, carried out through labor and love. He touches the earth with his fingers, feeling its warmth already rising from the morning sun. "You fed me all my life," he whispers. "Let's keep each other alive." Then, with a small click of his tongue, the oxen lean forward and the cart begins to move again. The sound of wooden wheels turning over dirt, the slow rhythm of hooves, the whisper of olive leaves. Together they create the calm music of a simple life, honest and steady. The fields lie ahead, endless gold beneath the wide Anatolian sky. And Yusuf smiles because he knows this path, these tools, these beasts, they are not just the parts of his day. They are the prayer he lives by, one sunrise at a time. The morning ripens into warmth. The sky over Anatolia stretches wide and endless, the kind of blue that makes you feel small but peaceful. Yusuf stands at the edge of his field, hand resting on the plow's worn handle. Before him lies a sea of dry soil, waiting for the day's first cut. He takes a deep breath. The air is thick with the smell of dust, hay, and thyme crushed underfoot. His oxen shift beside him, patient and quiet, steam rising gently from their nostrils. A breeze moves through the barley stubble, making the land shimmer like a slow tide. "All right, my friends," Yusuf murmurs, patting the nearest ox on its flank. "Let's wake the earth." The plow drops. The first furrow opens. The soil curls and rolls, dark and rich beneath the blade, as if the land is sighing awake. The rhythm begins. Step, pull, breathe. Step, pull, breathe. Each motion steady and sure, like a prayer whispered in motion. Sweat beads on Yusuf's forehead. His palms are rough but sure on the wood. The creak of the yoke, the groan of the plow, the rustle of the wind, all blend into a single song of labor. A bird calls from an olive branch. Far off, another farmer's voice echoes faintly, calling to his team. Yusuf hums under his breath. Not a song with words, just a tune, something his father used to whistle while they worked together. It's the rhythm of continuity, of sons following fathers, of hands learning what words can never fully teach. He remembers being 10 years old, watching his father guide the plow, the same oxen lines, the same soil beneath the same sky. The land doesn't belong to us, Yusuf, his father had said. We belong to it. We feed it and it feeds us. That's the only fair trade there is. Now, years later, Yusuf understands. Every turn of the plow feels like a conversation between him and the land, one that doesn't need words. The sun climbs higher, warm on his back. Sweat trickles down his temples, his shirt sticking to his shoulders. But there's no frustration in it. This kind of work isn't burden. It's a rhythm, simple, honest, and endless. Each furrow he leaves behind is straight and true, like a written line on parchment. If you look down from above, the field would look like a book, the story of a man's devotion written in the language of soil. And in that story, there's history too, not just Yusuf's, but that of the empire itself. Centuries of farmers like him, men who rose with the dawn, till the land paid their dues and kept the Ottoman heart beating. The empire's might didn't only come from soldiers or sultans. It came from fields like these, from barley and wheat, from hands calloused by plows and prayer alike. The Ottoman system was woven into this soil. The land belonged to the sultan, yes, but its care rested with men like Yusuf. It was called timar, a trust. The sipahi, the cavalrymen, were granted rights to collect taxes from these lands in return for military service. And so the empire stood not just on swords, but on furrows. Each field, each harvest, was another brick in the great unseen foundation of power. Yusuf doesn't think much about the sipahi or the sultan as he works. Those are distant figures, far beyond his village horizon. But he feels the weight of belonging to something larger, a chain of purpose stretching from his plow to the palace itself. The empire breathes through him, through every farmer, every seed buried in faith. The plow cuts another line. The earth turns, dark and soft, glinting under the sun. Birds swoop down to snatch insects from the freshly opened soil. A breeze rolls in, lifting Yusuf's sweat-damp hair and carrying the scent of turned earth, sweet, alive, ancient. He pauses for a moment, wiping his brow with his sleeve. His oxen lower their heads, grateful for the break. Yusuf takes a sip from his water skin, the coolness sliding down his throat. The taste of water after hard work, that a joy city folk will never understand. He squints at the field, half done now, and smiles. We're getting there, he says softly. The oxen flick their tails, as if to say, we never doubted it. Then he starts again. Step, pull, breathe. Step, pull, breathe. The hours pass in a slow, meditative rhythm. The kind of rhythm that empties the mind. Out here, Yusuf doesn't think of taxes or politics or the endless gossip of the market. He only feels the world beneath his feet, solid, real, eternal. Somewhere behind him, clouds gather, soft, white ones that promise rain. The earth smells eager for it. Yusuf looks up and grins. See, he says to the sky, even the clouds know it's a good day. By noon, the field stands dressed in perfect lines, each furrow glistening faintly in the sunlight, like a page freshly written. He stands there a while, leaning on his plow, just breathing it all in, the whisper of wind through olive leaves, the distant murmur of a stream, the steady heart of the land itself. For Yusuf, the narrator says softly, The land is both work and prayer. Each seed he plants is a verse in his lifelong conversation with God. The oxen snort quietly beside him. Yusuf pats them again. "Well done," he says, voice low and fond. "You've earned your rest." He looks over his field once more, the line straight, the soil ready, and feels something quiet and deep settle in his chest. Pride, maybe, or peace. Because here, beneath the wide Anatolian sky, surrounded by the whispering winds and the scent of new earth, Yusuf knows this simple truth. The world might change, empires might rise and fall, but the land remembers those who loved it. The sun climbs to its throne above the Anatolian sky, pouring light over everything, fierce, golden, and absolute. The air shimmers with heat, and even the wind seems too tired to move. Yusuf squints at his field, the morning's furrows gleaming dark and perfect under the sun. His shirt clings to his back, soaked with sweat, and his hands are brown with dust and callus. He lifts the plow upright, pats the nearest ox gently. "That's enough, old friend," he says, his voice soft, breath heavy. "Even the earth needs a little rest now." The ox exhales loudly, a sound that could almost be agreement, and lowers its great head to nibble at a patch of dry grass. Yusuf smiles, unhooks the harness, and wipes his brow with a worn piece of cloth. His skin smells of soil, oil, and sunlight, the scent of a life lived outdoors. He looks around for shade, spots his usual refuge, an old fig tree by the edge of the field, its branches wide and generous. Beneath it, the earth is cool and speckled with fallen leaves. Yusuf walks over, his sandals crunching on pebbles, and sits down with a long sigh that's half fatigue, half contentment. From here, he can see everything. His fields stretching wide like an ocean of earth, the village roofs in the distance, the faint shimmer of a stream cutting through the valley. Above him, the figs hang heavy and green, promising sweetness in a few weeks' time. He leans back against the trunk, takes out his lunch wrapped in cloth. Simple things, a piece of flatbread, a few dates, a little cheese. He eats slowly, savoring each bite, as though there's no rush in the world. Then, from the leather flask, he takes a long drink of cool water. It's warm from the sun, but still tastes like life itself. He wipes his mouth, sighs again, and lets his head rest against the bark. The sound of the world has changed now. The clang of tools and low grunts of oxen have faded. Instead, there's the endless hum of cicadas, a lazy rhythm that fills the hot air. Somewhere far off, faint and almost dreamlike, comes the sound of a shepherd's flute. It drifts through the valley, rising and falling like a lullaby made of sunlight. The melody feels ancient, maybe the same one his grandfather once heard on a summer day just like this. Yusuf closes his eyes. The breeze from the fig leaves brushes his face. For a while, he lets his thoughts wander. He remembers his father, standing in the same field years ago, his hands rough and strong, his face carved by the wind. "The soil is a gift, Yusuf," his father used to say, "but it's a gift you have to earn every day." Yusuf had laughed back then, not understanding. "Earn a gift?" he had asked. His father smiled, wiping his brow. "Yes, because blessings die when they're taken for granted." Now, sitting here decades later, Yusuf finally gets it. Every furrow, every drop of sweat, every moment of patience. That's how you say thank you to the land. Not with words, but with work. He opens his eyes again, gazes at the horizon. The fields ripple in waves of light. The empire stretches far beyond those hills. Sultans and palaces, soldiers marching, markets buzzing with traders, but all of it, he knows, rests on shoulders like his. No one writes songs about farmers. No marble statues bear their faces. But they're the pulse behind the empire's breath. Every loaf of bread baked in the city, every soldier fed on the frontier, all of it starts here, in places like this, with hands like his. He tears another piece of bread, dips it into a small pouch of olive oil, and smiles faintly. "Strange," he murmurs, "how something so small can hold so much." The flute still plays in the distance, weaving in and out of cicadas' endless song. The sound feels alive, like the land itself humming softly, half awake under the noonday sun. The oxen rest nearby, tails flicking lazily. One of them lets out a deep, rumbling sigh that makes Yusuf chuckle. You too, huh? Tired of the Sultan's taxes already? The ox flicks an ear but stays quiet, chewing slowly. Smart beast, Yusuf says, knows when to stay silent. He leans back again, lets the stillness sink in. It's a strange kind of peace, the kind that comes when there's nothing to chase, nothing to prove, just the earth, the air, and the slow passage of time. His fingers play absently with the prayer beads hanging from his belt. He doesn't whisper the words aloud, but in his heart, he gives thanks for the harvest yet to come, for the strength in his arms, for his wife's laughter, for the bread in his hand. The heat is heavy, almost like a blanket. He yawns, eyes drooping. The flute fades to silence. The cicadas fill the air again. For a moment, he feels himself drift, not asleep, not awake, just resting the heartbeat of the day. In that moment, Yusuf felt the whole world pause with him. The land, the wind, the birds, the sun. For all the grandeur of empires and the noise of kings, peace lived here, beneath a fig tree, in the heart of man who had learned to be content. A gust of wind stirs the leaves. Yusuf opens his eyes, blinking against the light. The day isn't done yet. There's still work waiting, still furrows to finish before dusk. He stands slowly, stretches his back with a soft groan. All right, he says to the oxen, smiling. Enough resting. Time to make the land sing again. The oxen rise, obedient and calm. Yusuf splashes a little water on his face, grabs a plow, and walks back toward the field. The heat still presses down, but his heart feels light, filled with the quiet strength that comes from gratitude. The flute begins again, faint in the distance, as Yusuf returns to his work. By the next morning, the air in the village feels different, charged with a quiet buzz of excitement. It's market day, the one day of the week when the dusty square turns into a small world of its own. Even before sunrise, Yusuf can already hear the shuffle of footsteps, the bray of donkeys, the clatter of wooden carts rolling over cobblestones. He ties his turban loosely, grabs a sack of dried figs and a small basket of barley, and steps out into the street. The smell of fresh bread drifts from the houses, mixed with the faint sweetness of roasted chestnuts from a vendor already setting up his stand. The whole village seems to hum with purpose, a slow, cheerful rhythm that makes even the tiredest farmer stand a little straighter. The square by mid-morning is alive. There are carpets hanging like tapestries from every wall, reds, blues, and gold shimmering under the sunlight. Merchants call out prices, each louder than the last. A man selling honey sweets holds up a dripping ladle, the golden syrup catching the light. A woman nearby fans a display of herbs and soaps, the air rich with the scent of lavender and thyme. Yusuf smiles as he walks through the crowd, nodding to familiar faces. Salaam alaikum, Hassan, he calls to the potter, whose stall gleams with new jugs and bowls. Alaikum salam, Yusuf. Here to trade, or just to escape your field for a day? Both, Yusuf says with a grin. The field can survive one morning without me. My wife's shopping list, though, that's another battle. They both laugh, and Hassan waves them off. Then may God give you patience. You'll need it more than rain. A group of boys dart past, chasing a chicken that's made a break for freedom, while their mothers scold them between bursts of laughter. The air is filled with sounds, bartering, joking, the clang of scales, the ring of coins. But it's not chaos. It's life, full, human, warm. At one corner of the square, two old women are haggling fiercely over a basket of wool. 2 measures of salt, one insists. Salt? For this quality? You'd rob me blind, the other fires back, her hands already on her hips. Then I'll take it to Hajar's stall. Ha! That woman's was as thin as smoke. Yusuf chuckles as he passes them. He's sure they'll end up sharing tea together by noon. They always do. He stops by a spice merchant next, where the air smells like a dream, Cinnamon, cloves, cumin, pepper, and dried mint. A cloud of color and scent that wraps around the whole corner of the market. The merchant, a man with a long white beard and a voice like gravel, looks up and smiles. Ah, Yusuf ibn Kamal, how goes your barley this year? Stubborn, Yusuf says, it listens only when the rain speaks. Then pray the rain has a good voice. The old man chuckles, scooping some cumin into a small paper cone. For you, a fair price. And tell your wife the spice of patience is always free. The smell of roasted chestnuts drifts closer now, followed by a sweeter one, honey syrup bubbling over a pan of golden fritters. A group of children stand nearby, watching the vendor flip the sweets with wide eyes. Yusuf can't help but buy a small bag for his own kids back home. When the vendor drops in an extra piece, he winks. For the little ones, and maybe one for you, too. Not far from the center, a small crowd gathers under a large plane tree. There, sitting cross-legged on a woven mat, is the cuddy, the village judge. His turban is neat, his robe simple, and beside him rests an ink pot and a few papers. His role isn't grand like the city judge's. Here, he listens to the small matters that weave through rural life. A borrowed donkey, a disputed fence, a late payment for grain. Today, two men stand before him. One gestures wildly toward a goat, insisting it was his. The other shakes his head, swearing on his ancestors that it belongs to him. The cuddy listens patiently, stroking his beard, saying little. The crowd leans in. Then, after a moment, the cuddy simply calls out to a small boy standing nearby. Whose goat is that? The boy grins. It's the one that always runs to Hassan's garden to eat his cabbages. The cuddy nods. Then the goat has chosen its owner. Case closed. The men both laugh, one in victory, one in resignation, and the cuddy waves him off, smiling. Justice, it seems, can be as simple as listening well and knowing your neighbors. By midday, the market's heat thickens. The noise softens a little as people rest in the shade. Some gather around the well, filling their jars and gossiping about everything from the coming harvest to who might marry the baker's eldest daughter. Someone says the taxes might rise again. Another swears his cousin saw an imperial officer on the road from Bursa. Yusuf listens with half an ear, sipping cool water from a cup, watching life unfold around him. These talks about crops, trade, weddings, and worry, they're the heartbeat of the countryside. The empire may seem vast, ruled by distant sultans and grand viziers, but its true pulse lives here, in laughter, in bargaining, in exchange of figs for salt, in the smell of bread and dust and human warmth. He sits for a while, watching the crowd move like a slow tide. A peddler sings a tune to draw attention to his scarves. Children chase the shadows of pigeons. The cuddy sips tea, still smiling from his last case. Here, among spices and stories, the empire breathes in color and kindness. Every trade, every shared laugh, keeps the great machine of life turning, not with gold or glory, but with hands and hearts that remember the value of simple things. As the afternoon light begins to shift, Yusuf gathers his small purchases, a pouch of spice, a coil of rope, the bag of sweets, and starts for home. The road hums with voices behind him, fading slowly as he walks toward the quiet fields. The smell of honey still lingers in the air. A warm breeze carries the sound of flute again, faint but familiar, as if the land itself is humming after a long day of laughter and life. The sun is barely past its climb when a new sound cuts through the hum of the village, the sharp rhythm of hooves on packed earth. It's not a sound that comes often here. It carries a different kind of weight, like the rustle of a page in a book that no one wants to read aloud. From his field, Yusuf looks up. A trail of dust rises on the horizon, shimmering in the noon light. Ah, he murmurs, wiping his brow with the edge of his sleeve. It seems the Empire remembers us after all. A few minutes later, the small group appears clearly, a horseman in fine robes with green sash, followed by two men carrying leather satchels and long scrolls. The Maltesan, the tax collector, has arrived. Word travels faster than the wind in a village. By the time Yusuf reaches the square, most of the men are already there. Tunics straightened, faces composed, trying to look neither too nervous nor too comfortable. Coins clink softly in pockets, a sound that feels louder than it should. The Maltesan dismounts with practiced grace. His boots are clean, his beard trimmed neatly, and his eyes scan the crowd with calm authority. Behind him, one of the scribes unrolls a long scroll that almost brushes the ground. Another sits cross-legged beside a wooden box filled with coins and small metal weights. Peace upon this village, the Maltesan says, his tone polite but cool. By the order of the Sanjak of Kataya, we collect the season's levy, in coin or in kind. The villagers murmur polite greetings. Yusuf bows his head slightly. Welcome, sir. The fields have been generous this year. We will pay what is due. The Maltesan nods, barely looking up. May it always be so. The process begins. One by one, names are called. Farmers step forward, presenting sacks of barley, jars of oil, basket of olives, the humble currency of the countryside. The scribes weigh each offering with deliberate care, marking tallies with soft scratching sounds of reed pens. The air feels heavier than usual. Not angry, just tense, like the moment before rain, when the world holds its breath. When Yusuf's name is called, he steps forward with his offering, 2 sacks of grain and a crate of olives. His palms are dusty but steady. The scribe inspects the goods, tapping his pen against the edge of the crate. Good quality, he mutters, noting it down. From your eastern plot? Yes, Yusuf answers. The soil was kind this year. The Maltesan glances up for the first time, studying Yusuf's face. You've tended your land well, he says, not unkindly. Tell me, have your oxen held strong? They do their work better than I do mine, Yusuf replies with a faint smile. A few nearby men chuckle, quietly, cautiously. Even the Maltesan's lips twitch slightly. But the moment passes quickly. The weight is measured, the record sealed, and Yusuf steps back. As he does, he feels a familiar small ache in his chest. Not anger, but something quieter. A tug between duty and weariness. He knows the taxes feed armies, fund roads, keep peace across the empire. Yet every handful of grain he parts with feels like giving away a piece of his own breath. Still, he tells himself, the Sultan's hand must reach far to keep the land whole. Nearby, an older farmer, Ahmet, with a beard white as flour, struggles to meet his quota. His wheat was spoiled by an early storm. The scribe frowns, tapping the ledger. Short by 10 measures, he says. The Maltesan sighs, looking toward the man. You will make it up after the next harvest. His tone is firm, but not cruel. See that you do. Ahmet bows low, relief washing over his face. He knows mercy when he hears it, even if it comes wrapped in authority. By late afternoon, the collection is done. The Maltesan mounts his horse again, his scribes packing up their scrolls and scales. The villagers stand watching, some relieved, others lost in thought. As the small procession rides away, a breeze stirs through the square. Dust rises, then settles again, as if the earth itself exhales. Yusuf stays for a while, watching the horizon where the riders disappear. He feels lighter, yet not entirely at ease. He thinks of how the grain he grew with his hands will now travel far, to the cities, the barracks, the ships of the empire. His small harvest, swallowed by something vast and unseen. Back home, Eileen meets him at the door. It's done, she asks softly. It's done, he nods, setting down his empty sacks. She pours him a cup of water. Then we thank God for another season's strength. He takes a sip, the coolness easing his throat. Outside, the evening wind carries the scent of tilled earth and faraway rain. For men like Yusuf, loyalty isn't shouted. It lives quietly, in sweat, in patience, in the small offerings made to keep life moving. Empires rise on the shoulders of such faith, not fierce, not loud, but steady as the soil itself. As night falls, The village returns to its rhythm. The square empties, the ledgers are gone, and only the stars remain, silent witnesses to a world built on both burden and belief. The morning after the tax collector's visit, the village feels lighter, like a field washed clean by rain. The air smells of fresh bread, dust, and something softer, lavender soap, perhaps drifting for where the women gather. At the heart of the village stands the old stone well. Its rim is smooth from centuries of hands drawing water, its rope darkened by years of sun and use. If the fields are the body of the village, this well is its beating heart. Everything and everyone passes through here. Yusuf's daughter, Layla, walks down the narrow path with 2 clay jars balanced in her hands. She's careful not to trip on the uneven stones. Her scarf slips a little in the breeze, and she laughs, pushing it back into place. The sound of her laughter mixes with the chatter already rising around the well, the soft music of village life. Around the circle of stones, women gather with their pitchers and buckets. The air hums with voices, greetings, teasing, and stories that stretch back generations. One woman hums a folk tune, while another ties a rope around her jar. Children chase each other in the dust, their laughter echoing off the mud brick walls. "Careful with that rope, Fatma," someone calls. "Last week you nearly dropped your jar again." Fatma rolls her eyes, smiling. "That was the wind's fault, not mine," she says, though everyone knows she was distracted by gossip at the time. The well creaks as a bucket goes down, splashes faintly, then rises again, dripping, shining under the sun. The water sparkles like a handful of glass beads. Each drop feels precious. Layla takes her turn, lowering the rope slowly, watching the bucket vanish into the cool shadow below. The splash comes a heartbeat later. She pulls it up, arms trembling slightly. The bucket crests the rim, glistening, and she pours it into her clay jar. The scent of fresh water and damp earth fills the air, clean, ancient, and comforting. Old women sit nearby beneath a mulberry tree, their hands busy with small work, mending clothes, shelling beans, or just turning prayer beads. Between their words, time itself seems to slow down. One of them, Grandmother Elif, clears her throat softly. "Did I ever tell you, children," she begins, "how once long ago a traveler stopped at this very well and met a saint in disguise?" The younger girls lean in. They've heard this story before, but they never tire of it. "He was thirsty," Elif continues, her voice warm and creaky like an old door. The traveler dropped his bucket and sat to rest. Then an old man appeared and said, "Share your water, and you'll never go thirsty again." The traveler did, and when he looked up, the old man had vanished. "Vanished?" one girl whispers. Elif nods solemnly. "Vanished like mist. But the well, it's never run dry since that day." A quiet moment follows, broken only by the soft creak of rope and the rustle of leaves. The older women exchange knowing smiles. Whether the tale is true or not doesn't really matter. What matters is that everyone believes in something, kindness, faith, and the power of small miracles. Layla listens with wide eyes as she ties the lid onto her jar. "Grandmother Elif," she asks shyly, "do you think saints still walk among us?" The old woman chuckles. "Maybe they do, my dear. Maybe they wear farmer's shoes and smell of wheat." A few women laugh softly at that, glancing toward the direction of the fields, where Yusuf and the other men are working under bright sky. The conversation drifts like the breeze. Some women speak of the harvest. Others whisper about weddings or new babies. Someone mentions the price of salt in the next town, and another sighs over her son's plans to join the army. The rhythm of talk and water fills the air, a lullaby for the living. One of the younger women dips her hand into the bucket, letting water run through her fingers. "So cold," she says, "even in this heat." "That's because it comes from deep below," says Elif. "The earth guards it like a secret." Layla pauses, thinking. "Then maybe," she says softly, "the well remembers everyone who's ever drawn water here." Elif smiles. "Ah, listen to the poet." The group laughs again, and the sound carries through the square, gentle and bright. By mid-morning, the crowd begins to thin. The women lift their filled jars, balancing them with practiced ease. Layla starts back home, the clay cool against her palms. Each step feels rhythmic, her own quiet music of balance and care. She passes a small boy carrying a jug twice his size. "Need help?" she asks with a grin. He shakes his head stubbornly. "No, my mother says I'm strong like a camel." Layla laughs. "Then walk, little camel, before your legs forget." At home, Yusuf greets her with a proud smile as she sets the jars near the doorway. He dips a ladle into one, tastes the cool water, and sighs contentedly. "Ah, better than any treasure." Eileen chuckles from the hearth. "Don't let the Sultan hear you say that." Yusuf winks. Let him come and see if his palace has water this sweet. They share a laugh, light and simple, the kind that makes a house feel alive. As the day stretches on, the well keeps singing its quiet song at the center of the village. Buckets rise and fall, hands meet and part, and stories flow, old ones, new ones, and the kind that is still being written. Every village has a well, a place where water meets memory, where laughter and labor mix, where the weight of the world feels lighter with every shared story. And in that endless circle of rope and bucket, something sacred happens. Life renews itself. The sun begins its slow descent, painting the Anatolian sky in strokes of gold and purple. The light turns soft, wrapping the fields in a warm haze. The air, heavy with the day's heat, starts to cool. The long shadows of olive trees stretch across the earth like dark fingers reaching toward the horizon. Yusuf walks behind his oxen, guiding them gently through the grove. The beasts move at an easy pace, their hooves pressing deep into the dusty path. Every step is familiar, the rhythm of a day drawing to its peaceful end. He hums softly to himself, some old tune his father used to sing. The oxen's tails flick lazily at the flies. In the distance, a few other farmers can be seen, tiny silhouettes against the glowing fields. Some wave. Yusuf raises a hand in return. No words needed, just that silent nod between men who shared the same sun, the same sweat. The olive trees whisper in a breeze, their leaves shimmering like coins under the fading light. Every breath smells of earth, hay, and faintly of smoke, the scent of home. As he nears the village, he hears familiar sounds returning to life. A dog barking lazily near the bakery. The chatter of children running barefoot through the dust. The sharp clack-clack of a woman chopping vegetables. Life doesn't stop. It just softens, slows down like a great instrument tuning itself for the night. From somewhere far off, a shepherd's flute drifts across the fields, a lonely tune, calm and sweet. Yusuf pauses a moment, letting it wash over him. "Who needs palace musicians," he murmurs with a small grin, "when the hills themselves play for you?" The oxen snort in quiet agreement, though one of them looks more interested in the grass by the roadside. "Come on, old friend," Yusuf says, patting its flank. "Home first, then dinner." The road curves past the edge of the village, where olive groves give way to low mud brick homes. Smoke curls from the chimneys, pale against the darkening sky. The air smells of lentils and wood fire. Somewhere, a mother calls her children in for supper. Chickens flap and fuss as they're herded into coops. Yusuf feels that gentle ache in his shoulders, the kind that only comes from honest work. He doesn't mind it. It's a familiar companion, like an old friend that visits every evening just to remind him he's alive. Then, from the village minaret, the muezzin's voice rises. The adhan spreads over the land like a soft wave. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. The sound drifts through the olive trees, echoes off the hills, mingles with birds returning to their nests. Yusuf stops walking. He closes his eyes and listens. For a moment, everything stands still, the oxen, the wind, even the birds seem to pause. He lets the call settle deep into his chest. It's a reminder that no matter how far you travel, or how heavy the day has been, there's always a voice calling you back, to peace, to gratitude, to stillness. When the call fades, He leads the oxen into their pen. He loosens their harnesses, pats them both on the neck. "Good work today," he says softly. "You've earned your rest." One of them huffs out a sigh that sounds suspiciously like agreement. Inside the house, Eileen is already setting dinner. The smell of lentil stew fills the air, hearty, warm, comforting. Little Layla helps by laying out flatbread, while their youngest son pokes at the fire, pretending to be a brave soldier on duty. Yusuf washes his hands with water from the jar Layla filled earlier that morning. The coolness of it feels good after the heat of the day. He sits, stretching his legs, and smiles as Eileen ladles stew into his bowl. "Long day?" she asks. "As long as the sun," he says with a tired grin, "but shorter than the Empire's taxes." Eileen chuckles. "Then eat before your jokes get older than your oxen." The family eats together, quietly at first, the soft clinking of spoons, the crackle of fire. Then come small bits of talk, how the market went, whether it might rain, what stories grandmother Elif told at the well. Outside, the sky deepens into indigo. A single star appears, then another. The night breeze carries the scent of fig leaves and cool dust. After dinner, Yusuf steps outside for a moment. The village is calm now, lamps glowing faintly behind windows, the faint murmur of a lullaby somewhere nearby. The same muezzin's voice now recites verses, slow and gentle, as if blessing the land itself. Yusuf looks up at the sky, endless, peaceful, familiar. He thinks of all the generations who must have looked at the same sunset, drawn water from the same well, prayed under the same stars. Empires have changed, kings have come and gone, yet this rhythm of dusk and dawn never falters. He takes a slow breath and smiles to himself. "The empire may rise and fall," he says quietly, "but the sun always sets the same way." He lingers a little longer, listening to the night take its first deep breath. Then he turns back inside, where the light of his home waits, soft and steady. The night has settled softly over the village. The fields lie quiet, their golden rows now just faint shapes beneath the stars. Inside Yusuf's home, the world feels smaller, warmer, filled with the gentle hum of family and fire. The hearth glows in the corner, its flame dancing against the clay walls. The smell of lentil stew drifts through the room, hearty, simple, touched with cumin and a drizzle of olive oil that Eileen pressed herself last season. A loaf of fresh bread sits beside it, its crust still crackling from the heat of the oven. The low wooden table is set. It's old, smoothed by years of hands, meals, and stories. Around it sit Yusuf, Eileen, Layla, and little Mehmet, whose eyelids already droop with the rhythm of the fire's crackle. Yusuf lowers himself onto the woven mat with a tired sigh that sounds half like relief and half like gratitude. His knees creak, but he smiles anyway. "Ah," he says, "the best part of Farmer's Day, when the only thing left to plow is this bowl." Eileen chuckles softly. "Then don't let it go fallow," she teases, ladling the stew into his bowl. He grins, tearing off a piece of bread and dipping it into the rich, earthy broth. The taste is simple: lentils, onion, olive oil, and care. No feast, but to Yusuf it might as well be one. He murmurs, closing his eyes for a second. "Better than anything I ever had in the city." "You've never been to a city?" Layla giggles. He winks. "Then I must be right." The room fills with easy laughter, small, soft, genuine, the kind that warms more than the fire ever could. They eat in peace for a while, the sounds of the night drifting in through the open window, a dog barking in the distance, a cricket chorus rising from the fields, the faint ring of a blacksmith's hammer finishing his day's work. Eileen breaks the quiet. "The tax collector didn't take too much this time," she says, her tone light but edged with relief. Yusuf shakes his head. "No, he was fair. Or maybe he was just in a hurry to reach a bigger purse in the next town." Eileen gives him a playful glare. "Don't tempt fate. Fairness is rare enough. Best to thank God for it." Yusuf nods, dipping his bread again. You're right, as always. Then, with a grin, that's why I never argue. I just eat. Layla giggles again, though she tries to hide it behind her hand. Father, you'd lose anyway. Oh, I already did, Yusuf says, glancing fondly at Eileen. Years ago. Eileen smiles, shaking her head. Eat your stew, philosopher. The little room glows with warmth. The flickering firelight paints soft shadows on the wall. The outlines of family whose love needs no grand gestures. Just presence. Just laughter. After the meal, Yusuf leans back, his belly full, his body tired but calm. The oxen did well today, he says, voice low and slow. They've earned their rest, and so have we. Eileen nods, setting the ladle aside. The barley looks strong this season. If the rain stays kind, we'll have enough for winter and a little more. Enough, Yusuf says softly. That's all any man needs. He glances at Mehmet, whose head now rests in Eileen's lap. The boy's tiny hand is still clutching a piece of bread, long forgotten. His breathing is steady, the easy rhythm of dreams. Eileen strokes his hair gently, her eyes soft in the firelight. Layla watches, resting her chin on her knees. He'll grow strong, like you, Baba. Yusuf smiles, though his eyes look distant for a moment. Strong, yes, but I pray he grows kind first. Strength fades. Kindness stays. Outside, a light wind stirs a fig tree by the window, its leaves brushing softly against the wall, like nature's own lullaby. The fire crackles, lowering itself with every minute, its glow becoming gentler, deeper. Eileen hums an old tune under her breath, one her mother sang when she was a girl. A song about patience, about faith, about waiting for spring. The melody floats through the small room, wrapping itself around them all like a blanket. Yusuf closes his eyes, listening. For a moment, he forgets the weight of fields, taxes, and the empire's endless reach. All that remains is this: his wife, his children, their laughter, their breath, their warmth. The narrator's voice settles in, soft and slow, almost a whisper. Here, in this humble room, lies the heart of an empire, not in palaces or armies, but in the quiet strength of families who share bread and gratitude at the end of each day. For them, peace isn't a decree. It's a bowl of stew, a fire's glow, and the sound of a child sleeping safely nearby. Yusuf looks in the fire one last time before it burns low, the coals glowing like tiny stars. He murmurs a small prayer, not for wealth, not for glory, but for the same gift tomorrow: work, family, and peace. The fields sleep now. The last embers of the day fade beneath the cool, silvery breath of night. Stars begin to bloom across the dark velvet sky, one after another, until the heavens themselves seem alive, whispering stories to the earth below. Yusuf steps outside, his wooden sandals brushing softly against the dust. The air smells of jasmine and distant smoke. From the nearby houses, laughter drifts on the breeze, low, easy, the kind that belongs to people who worked hard and earned their rest. At the edge of the village, under the shade of a tall plane tree, a small group of men has gathered. The same faces as always: neighbors, friends, brothers in labor. They sit in a loose circle, clay cups of steaming tea between them, a small oil lamp flickering in the center. Salaam alaikum, Yusuf, calls out old Hassan, waving him over. Alaikum salam, Hassan Aga, Yusuf replies, lowering himself to the ground beside them. His knees protest, but his smile does not. I heard the name before I saw the moon tonight. Then you heard something worth seeing? Hassan chuckles, nodding toward young Karam, who sits cross-legged with a slender flute in his hands. The boy begins to play again, a soft, trembling note that rises and falls like the wind through wheat. The melody floats over the fields, carrying the scent of tea, tobacco, and peace. Beside him, another man strums a saz, its strings vibrating with the pulse of memory. They sing an old folk song, not loud, not boastful, but gentle. A tune about a farmer who loved the land so much he buried his heart beneath an olive tree, so it would grow strong forever. Laughter follows, not the tale but around it. The shared warmth of voices under stars that have watched this same scene for centuries. Yusuf takes a sip of his tea. It's dark and strong, brewed over coals. The fields will sleep well tonight, he says, as will the men who tend them. Hassan replies. Someone adds, and the women who bake their bread, earning a round of chuckles. Stories begin, as they always do. Stories of ancestors who crossed mountains for new land, of sultans who dreamed of justice, of saints who turned hunger into prayer. Each tale blends truth and legend, faith and laughter, until no one can quite tell where history ends and wisdom begins. An old man, his beard white as flour, begins a story of the prophet's kindness, of how even the smallest good deed carries weight before God. As he speaks, the group grows quiet. Heads bow slightly, eyes reflecting the glow of the small lamp between them. The story ends and silence follows, not empty, but full. From a nearby home, a child's laugh breaks the stillness. Somewhere else, a mother hums a lullaby. The sounds of life, gentle, complete, settle like mist over the village. Yusuf leans back, gazing upward. The moon glows high above, serene and watchful, its light spilling over rooftops and olive leaves. He watches it for a long while, as though tracing a connection between heaven and soil, between the farmer's callous hands and the sky's endless calm. The narrator's voice returns, soft and measured. In these quiet hours, when the earth cools and men sit shoulder to shoulder beneath the stars, something eternal stirs. Not power nor wealth nor pride, but belonging, the kind that binds hearts stronger than any chain, and steadies lives through every storm. A soft breeze passes through the gathering, lifting the corner of a woven shawl, rustling the branches above. The tea cools, the music fades, and one by one, the men rise, offering blessings to each other as they go. Ale Anatolia, they say. May God protect you. Yusuf turns homeward. The lanterns glow, guiding his steps through the sleeping village. Behind him, the laughter has faded, but its warmth lingers in the air, woven into the night like a promise. The night deepens. The lamps go out one by one until only the stars remain. 1,000,000 tiny lanterns swinging above the Anatolian plain. Inside his home, Yusuf lies beside Eileen and the children, their breathing soft and steady. The house creaks a little with the wind, and outside an owl calls once, then falls silent. The warmth of the day fades from his skin, replaced by the cool hush of night. Sleep finds him slowly, like a gentle tide returning to the shore. And in that sleep, the world shifts. He stands barefoot in a field of gold. The wheat sways all around him, taller than he remembers, glowing beneath a crescent moon that hangs like a silver scythe in the sky. Each stalk shimmers as if dusted with stars. The air hums, not with insects or wind, but with something older, deeper. The earth breathes. He feels it under his feet, alive, kind, patient. Every furrow he plowed, every seed he pressed into the soil, now glows faintly, as if blessed by unseen hands. The same land that tore his palms with labor now cradles him in light. From somewhere beyond the fields comes a voice, then another, then many, soft and distant, like the rustling of leaves mixed with prayer. He knows them, his father's voice, his grandfather's, men who once tilled these same plains, whose bones now rest beneath the olive trees. Work with faith, they whisper, and the land will remember you. Another voice, gentle, a woman's, maybe his mother, maybe someone older than memory itself, murmurs, "The one who tends the earth tends the heart of the world." Yusuf looks up. The crescent moon brightens, its curve glowing like a blade of silver wheat. The stars around it pulse softly, forming shapes that shift and dissolve. A plow, an ox, a loaf of bread. Symbols of his life, ordinary yet eternal. He begins to walk. The field stretches forever, the horizon a river of light. Each step he takes leaves behind small green shoots, as if the earth itself is following him with gratitude. He does not walk alone. Shadows form beside him, Other farmers, men and women from times long past. Some wear the same simple robes, others the turbans and sashes of forgotten centuries. They carry tools, sickles, baskets, wooden yokes, and their faces shine with the same peace. Together they move beneath the moon, their steps forming a rhythm that sounds like a heartbeat. The farmer's dream, the narrator whispers, is the empire's heartbeat. Empires may rise with sword and law, but they live and breathe through the hands that sow, water, and reap. Yusuf stops, gazing across the shimmering plain. In the distance, faint outlines of cities appear. Istanbul with its domes and minarets, Damascus glowing in haze, the coasts of distant lands touched by the same moonlight. The wind carries his whisper far. Not palaces, not thrones, just rain. The moon lowers, bathing the fields in pale blue light. The ancestors' voices grow softer, fading like the last notes of a song. One voice remains, steady, kind. Keep working, Yusuf ibn Kamal. The world sleeps because of men like you. He reaches out, and his fingers brush against the wheat. It hums beneath his touch, warm, forgiving. And then, like morning itself, light breaks through the dream. Yusuf stirs awake. The first call of a rooster echoes faintly from afar. His eyes open to see the soft gray of dawn spilling through the window. Eileen sleeps beside him. His youngest is curled up at his feet. He smiles. Outside, the crescent moon still hangs low on the horizon, pale now, fading with the promise of another day. He dreams not of palaces, but of rain, of the quiet mercy that feeds a world. And in that dream, he carries the heart of an empire that will never be written in marble, but in the soil beneath his hands. The night passes softly, like a secret between earth and sky. Then once more, the first blush of dawn creeps across the Anatolian plains. The horizon glows with a faint line of rose and gold, and the mist rises again from the barley fields, just as it did yesterday. A rooster crows. The same one, the same note, proud, slightly off-key. Somewhere, a dog barks an answer. Life stirs. Yusuf opens his eyes before the sun fully climbs. For a few moments, he lies still, listening. To the breathing of his family, to the quiet creak of the house, to the soft cooing of doves on the rooftop. It's the same every morning, but it never feels old. There's comfort in that sameness, a promise that life, for all its changes, still keeps rhythm. He rises, stretches his back with a low sigh, and steps outside. The air bites a little, cool, fresh, and full of dew. Across the fields, the sky is turning brighter, washing the shadows away. The smell of damp soil and early light fills his chest. Another day, he murmurs, praise be. Inside, Eileen is already at the hearth, her sleeves rolled up. She kneads the bread dough with steady hands, humming an old folk tune that her mother once sang. The dough squeaks softly under her palms, puffing with life as she folds and presses it. The children stir, rubbing their eyes and arguing sleepily about who gets the first piece once it's baked. The house feels alive again, warm, human, unhurried. Yusuf chuckles as he ties his belt. You'd think they were fighting for a palace feast, he teases. Eileen smirks without looking up. Bread is a feast once made with love. Outside, the oxen grunt as he approaches the stable. He pats their thick necks, checks their feed, and runs his hand down the wooden yoke, worn smooth from years of work. The animals look at him with those patient brown eyes, the kind that never judge, never rush. He whispers, back to it, my friends. The sun climbs a little higher now, burning the mist away. The world stretches awake. Birds flicker across the olive trees. Somewhere, a child's laughter drifts from the village path. The first smoke of morning fires rises into the still sky. The same sights, the same sounds, and yet every detail feels brand new. Maybe it's the light, Yusuf thinks. Or maybe it's the heart, always finding reasons to be grateful. He watches Eileen carry a tray outside, steaming tea, cheese, olives, and warm bread. They sit together on a woven mat by the doorway, their youngest climbing into his lap. The bread cracks open, releasing its soft scent. The tea fogs the air between them. For a moment, nothing exists but this. Family, food, the sound of life beginning again. Yusuf looks at the horizon, where the golden fields shimmer faintly in the morning light. Strange, he says. We do the same things every day. Feed the animals, plow the land, pray, eat, sleep, and still it feels good. Eileen smiles, because it's not the same day. It's today. Her words hang there, simple, honest, enough to silence any thought of boredom. The narrator's voice softens, slipping in like a breeze. To live simply is to live wisely. To greet the same sun and still feel its warmth anew, that is peace. After breakfast, Yusuf shoulders his tools again. The oxen follow obediently, their hooves pressing new prints into the old road. Each step, each turn of the plow, feels like a quiet prayer in motion. From afar, the fields glimmer. The scent of wild thyme rides the air. Insects buzz lazily, drunk on sunlight. Yusuf wipes his brow and laughs softly to himself. Even the flies came early today, he mutters. Work begins again, and with it, the eternal rhythm. Furrow after furrow, the plow sings its wooden song against the soil. Sweat rolls down Yusuf's arms, catching the light like tiny pearls. But there's no rush, no complaint. Only patience. Some chase glory in battle or wealth in trade. Others, like Yusuf, find greatness in repetition, in doing the same small good things with care again and again, because it is through small acts that the world keeps turning. By midday, the sun is high, and the day feels complete. Even though it has barely begun, Yusuf stands at the edge of the field, looking over the neat lines of earth. The oxen rest in the shade. The wind brushes through the grain, making it wave like water. He smiles. He doesn't know what tomorrow will bring, rain, taxes, or laughter, but it doesn't matter. The day is enough. The narrator closes the chapter in a soft murmur, almost like a lullaby. And so the promise renews itself, not in gold or conquest, but in the quiet sunrise and the warmth of bread, in the heart that keeps going. To live simply is not to live small. It is to live close to truth. The sun lowers once more over the fields of Anatolia, dipping behind the hills with a glow that seems older than memory. Yusuf walks home, his shadow long and thin across the earth he's tended since youth. His oxen move beside him, steady as always, their breath misting in the cooling air. The day ends the way it always does. Quietly, yet something feels timeless in the silence that follows. The narrator's voice softens, drawing us higher, above Yusuf's fields, above his village, above the rolling plains that shimmer gold under the fading light. We rise slowly, as if carried by the evening wind, drifting over the endless farmlands of the Ottoman world. There, another farmer in Rumelia, leading his mule down a narrow path between stone terraces. Farther, a woman in Syria, gathering figs in her apron while her children laugh nearby. In the Balkans, men thresh grain beside a river that glows red in the sunset. In Albania, shepherds guide their flocks toward the mountains, singing old songs that echo against cliffs. Everywhere, across valleys and coastlines, deserts and gardens, the same rhythm beats, the quiet, patient heartbeat of the land. Empires rise with armies, the narrator murmurs, but they live through farmers. From Yusuf's small plow to the grand markets of Istanbul, every loaf of bread, every olive, every grain of rice carries a memory of hands that worked unseen, hands that never wrote decrees or led conquests, yet fed the hearts of millions. Centuries turn like seasons. Sultans come and go, their names etched in marble, their palaces now quiet. Wars flare and fade, banners are raised and lowered, but the soil does not forget. It keeps the touch of those who turned it, the footprint of oxen, the echoes of old prayers whispered over seed and rain. Somewhere, a distant call to prayer rises, faint, carried by the wind. The same prayer that Yusuf once heard every morning, the same words spoken by countless others under countless skies. The scene slows, time itself seems to pause. We glimpse Yusuf descendants working the same fields generations later. The houses change, the tools evolve, but the rhythm remains. Dawn, labor, dusk, gratitude. The earth continues its quiet song. Long after the empire's banners fell, the soil remembered their touch. The patient hands that sowed, the hearts that thanked the sky, and the lives that bloomed quietly beneath the Ottoman sun. The wind moves through the barley one last time, whispering like an old prayer. Crickets begin their chorus. Somewhere, a dog barks faintly, and the call to prayer echoes from a faraway minaret. Slow and haunting under the stars, the night settles. The story of Yusuf ibn Kamal and of all who worked the land fades into the hush of eternity.